Hi guys, my name is Trevor, teaching that there is another way through the dark night of the soul. We're going to go through some really important things today because I want to start to show you my book. I want to start to show you the things that I put together, the program that I put together to sort of get me out of this dark night, to try and understand what on earth was happening to me. As I said to you before, it's all about transformation, transforming yourself from who you thought you was into someone who you can become. That's a totally different thing, isn't it? We've all been taught that we are human beings. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is another identity to who we are. And through this identity, it changed my life. It got me through a lot of things, and I discovered the real heart of healing. And through this art of healing, I discovered that I could heal myself in many, many different ways, and then discovered that I had the gift to also be able to heal somebody else. So that's the biggest thing on the planet, isn't it? You know, do we have this gift? Can we heal? Is it just a miracle? Is it just written in storybooks? Can it happen in films, you know? But for me, I wanted to find out whether or not I could. And the reason why this happened is because I found myself in a place where I just didn't feel well. I didn't feel right. I was suffering a lot of bodily pains. You know, you could go to the doctors and there's nothing wrong with you. You know, what's the matter? And you kind of went to the doctors hoping that they was going to tell you that something was wrong so that you could, you know, at least turn around and say, thank God for that. I know something is wrong with me now. I can identify with that and, you know, that's it. But when you get to the point in your human life and you try to understand who you are, and of course you're in pain, you go to the doctors and they tell you that you don't find anything wrong. And I remember when the doctor said to me, he said, there's nothing wrong with you. And I must have looked disappointed at the time because he looked at me and went, I've never seen anyone look so disappointed with somebody telling them that there's nothing wrong with you. So I said, okay, it's a long story. I said, you'll never understand what's kind of going on. So that led me to the point that there wasn't a physical symptom that was going on, but within me, it felt like a physical symptom was really happening. When we look at fibromyalgia, or fibromyalgia, however you say it, I remember when I was kind of going through that, and it just felt like everything in my body was hurting. It felt like somebody had stepped into my body who was bigger than me, and it just didn't fit this skin that I was wearing. And so therefore I always felt like that I kind of wanted to stretch myself. You know, one of them torture racks, you know, when you've got your arms at the back and your legs are being, you know, you're being stretched. I kind of think we should bring them into play, really, and I think they should be a great idea to be able to sort of stretch you into alignment. Because, in all honesty, that's what it felt like for me. I felt like I needed to be stretched. I felt like that I should be taller. And it felt like that this energy that was around me was much taller and much stronger. But my own body felt weak. It's almost as if it couldn't contain the energy. It couldn't hold the strength of this supernatural, if you like, or this energy. Let's call it the energy, because when we use the word energy, there is no words to be able to explain what it is, what's kind of going on. And this is why we can't explain what is going on. And so this is where what I bring to the table. I bring to the table a kind of an explanation, because one of the things I've discovered is that, you know, I thought it was just me. I thought I was just going off my head. And so therefore I didn't know really what was happening. You know, YouTube didn't exist. There wasn't really any internet, because my dark night of the soul was 17 years ago. And through them 17 years, I sort of developed from a 1-year-old to a 2-year-old, into a 5-year-old, into a 10-year-old. And it really does seem like that. It really does seem like that when you go through this awakening process, you have to begin again. How many of you feel like that you can't be bothered to have a shower? You can't really be bothered to put nice clothes on. You can't be bothered going out. You can't be bothered to even feed yourself. You sleep a lot. So it kind of represents you like being like a baby. And that's what it felt like for me. And I was fighting that. I was kind of, come on, Trev, what's the matter with you? You idiot. You know how to earn money. You know how to get out there and do your job. You know, you're a fabulous communicator, and everything just got shut down. I couldn't even communicate. I just was so quiet. I think for 3 years, I didn't really talk to anyone about anything, and people looked at me as if to say, where's he gone? What's gone on? Why is he, so quiet? I just really didn't have anything to say. It was as if the language that I'd been using in the human way was just a load of bullshit, really. None of it made sense to me. Words didn't make sense to me. Everything that I thought I wasn't computing. It didn't fit. And it's the same with depression, People can look at you and maybe the doctor will turn around and say to you, you're depressed. But in my mind at that particular time, I looked at it and I thought, right, are you depressed? And I thought, well, kind of, yeah, but kind of no. There was something there that wasn't accepting that identity. There was something in me that sort of said, I can't be depressed. And if I am depressed, then surely something has got me depressed. So if I'm depressed, there must be a way that I can get out of this. If I'm in it, there's no one better who is going to know me like me. Because there's no one on the planet like me, as the same as there is no one on the planet like you. So today, for the first time, and this book ain't for sale, by the way, it really is. Might be my Bible, really. But one day, hopefully, you can all get to read it. But this was a book that I kind of put together, this must have been about 15 years ago. And this is why I say to you, it's very important to write. I have never written a single word in my life. I actually got kicked out of school for not writing. They just said to me, Trevor, you're just not interested, are you? I went, nope, I'm not interested in your history or what Adolf Hitler did, or I'm not interested. So for me at school, I was a bit of a rebel, so rightfully so, because I'm still like that now. And we're all rebels and we've got to be rebels. And so therefore, nothing infused me. There was no interest there for me. But when I started writing, there was a gift there. And it used to amaze me of what used to come out of my body. And I thought to myself, this can't be me writing this. I don't even know how to write. And be honest with you, if you do ever get one of my books, excuse the spelling mistakes and the full stops. I really don't know where they go. But it's the message that's important. And it's the message about how to get from A to B, from your human self into your true self. It's a purely a transformational journey. And on the planet, as I said before, there's an energy that came onto this planet and it kind of affected a lot of people. And of course, a lot of people just didn't know how to understand that energy. I mean, for God's sake, I didn't understand it. I had no one to talk to at all. So I'm glad I got this camera and I'm glad I got some amazing subscribers, because now I feel I've got someone to talk to and share this stuff with, because I've had so many emails where people are sort of saying, you've saved my life. I was thinking about committing suicide, but you've gave me hope. Now, I never in my days thought that this was where it was all going to amount to. I did become top psychic in the country. I did become one of UK's life coaches in the country. But that didn't bother me. There was something there that still wasn't right. It was all right. It was good. I discovered more gifts about myself that I never knew I had. So as a human being, what it is that you're trying to do is that you're trying to understand who you are. And somebody sent me a mail and he said to me, I don't know who I am. So how many of you out there are sort of saying, well, I don't know who I am? And to me, I think that's the opening line. I think when you look up to the heavens and you ask God to say, who am I? You're trying to look for this answer. But for me, it was like God would shout back and go, well, you tell me who you are. Show me who you are. I spent a lot of time speaking to God. And at the time in my life, I never looked at that word. I never understood that word and who really does. But I had no one else to talk to. So that was my last shot. Maybe if I ask God, maybe God will give me some answers and something will kind of happen. But who was I? Who am I? What am I here to do was all of these questions that I found myself asking that I've never asked before in my life. I had no interest in, I had no reason to ask that in my life. But I did ask him. And I'm telling you now, something bloody happens. There is something there. It's almost like it's the key word. There's that element that spirit kind of hears you and go, right, he's asked the most important question. He's asking who he is. Let's show him. Let's tell him. Let's guide him. Well, how are we going to do that then? Crash his life. Destroy his life. Get him to forget who he is. Take all his skill away. Take all his jobs away. Strip him down. Let's strip him down to the bare bones. And that was the beginning of my writing. I felt like I'd been stripped down to the bare bones. And, you know, the most important thing about it all, when all my skills disappeared, my hairdressing equipment, makeup equipment, photography equipment. I mean, I've done everything. I've sprayed cars, I've put in kitchens, I've done plastering. There isn't anything that I can't really do. But when it all got stripped down, it was as if Spirit was saying to me, now what you got left? Whoa, that question bugged me. What did I have left with no tools? And from that, I discovered a voice. You have a voice. I have a voice. And that is where we're going to lead us into this book to understand what is the power of the voice. So the power of the voice, think about it. It's your gift. What comes out of your mouth is the gift. Now, I never knew how to communicate. I definitely didn't know how to communicate with myself. That's the trouble. How we think about ourselves, how somebody thinks about us, how we worry about what somebody thinks about us, what we think about during the course of a day. And I got to that point, in actual fact, what I was thinking about was absolutely rubbish. There was nothing in there that gave me any form of intelligence. There was nothing in there that was exciting. There was nothing there that was healing. There was nothing there that was important. And there was nothing in my head that had any meaning or any purpose whatsoever. I was just happy to live my life and die and never even think about why I was here. In the awakening, and listen, when you hear people turn around and go, oh yeah, you're going through this awakening and in time it'll all change and you'll be all right. Not really. You got to work on it. You really got to work with it. And I'll tell you for why. Because I did that. I thought, well, tomorrow I'll be all right. Tomorrow came, I wasn't. Or maybe next week I'll be all right. Next week came, no, I wasn't. Then a month. And then a year. And in 2 years, and I thought, I ain't going to be all right. So that was a turning point for me, that I thought to myself, all right, I'm not all of a sudden going to be all right. There's something here that needs to happen. So that's when I began to get very serious about my life. And I thought to myself, you better start now. Because if you don't start something now, if you don't try to understand who you are, another 5 years is going to disappear. And you know as well as I do, how fast time is disappearing. It's true when your parents used to say, or your grandparents used to say, listen son, it goes quick. Before you know it, you'll be 80 years old and you used to think, yeah, whatever. I've got another 50 years to go, granddad. I don't need to know that yet. But in hindsight of it all, it's interesting because to be 50 years old, it's only 50 summers, 50 winters. If you're 50 years old and you're lucky to go on holiday once a year, it's only 50 holidays, 60 holidays. It's not a lot. When we look at our birthdays, you kind of go, oh, I'm 50 years old, or I'm 60 years old. You think, oh, that's a long time. But when you break it down and you think, you know, if you live to sort of 65 years old, 70 years old, there's getting a bit of a push there. It's only 70 summers, 70 winters. When you look at it like that, that's not actually a lot, is it? And that was the thing for me. So it's time to get our skates on. So let me show you some of my book. On the front cover, it's called There Is Another Way. And there is another way. Because the truth of it is find the true self, feel the true self, and be the true self. But the question comes, what is the true self? And the true self, I believe now, is to be able to totally understand who I am, totally understand that this mind can actually teach me a lot more than I was teaching it. The mind runs amok It's just filled with shit. It's filled with stuff that you actually don't need. And that's called human. You don't need half of the stuff in there. It's like on your computer, you've got your hard drive, the more you've got on your hard drive, the more it starts slowing down, the more it isn't kind of doing anything. So what do? You start dumping stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you, you've got to start dumping stuff. And that's why you've done all this stuff. That's why you've gotten everything and everyone out of your life, because you're dumping them to be able to clear yourself of what you used to know, to empty yourself, to allow the new stuff to come in. And I know it sounds impossible, but it's like as if you get hot-wired. It's like as if you get new information come into you. So let's throw a few good questions out there, because this is what I needed to know. So I'm going to share with you what set me up in all of these questions and how Beamism came about. So I'm going to try and teach you as much as I can. It's a shame YouTube's, 10, 15 minutes. You lot won't listen no more than 12 minutes. I know, I've done the check. So here we are. Some important questions that we can ask ourselves. I don't know if you can see it on there, but I'll just take the chance that you can. But I'll read them out to you anyway. Are you finding it hard to understand love? That's a big yes. Do you tell yourself you have no confidence? Do you feel like there is something missing in your life? Do you feel like you are in a void or dark place? Do you find that you are constantly feeling depressed? Are you finding it difficult to express your true feelings? Are you constantly questioning yourself to find answers? Do you find people around you don't understand you? Do you feel that you have a gift of healing? And do you ever feel that there is more to life? Bloody important questions. So, let's start with number 1, shall we? Are you finding it hard to understand love? Who really knows what is love? All these spiritual gurus, they talk about love. It's written in famous books, Love Thy Neighbour and all that stuff. Learn to know yourself, learn to love yourself. For me, understanding what love is, we sort of go through relationships and we try to understand it within the relationship, what love is. I love you, do you love me? That's great until one of the beings don't love you. And that's where it becomes very devastating. If somebody loves you, then it's very good. But somebody can really love you. But can you actually receive love? We all want love. And what happens is that we all want somebody to come into our lives to give us that love. We all do. We want somebody to love me. And if somebody will love me, I may just love them back. But when that was happening to me, see, I never got brought up with love. I got brought up with hatred. Every night I went to bed with hate. And so for me, when I talk to you about Beamism and the gift and the power of healing and things like this, I didn't come from a loving background at all. I remember crying every night, going to sleep as a child, hating my stepfather and kind of hating my mum at the same time, for putting up with him. So, as a kid, I did a lot of fighting. Me and the stepfather just didn't get on with none of the brothers. And, that was very devastating as a child, to hate somebody that much, that the anger was incredible. And of course, as I grew up, that anger became even more angry. And I just, oh God, I've never known hate like it. I really did hate. But now I kind of get it. I kind of understand it. And Beamism is the program. No, I don't like the word program. Process. Is the process that actually got me through, because I knew that the hate that was contained in my body, that I was storing from all of my experiences, was killing me. So healing is about understanding anger. So we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think that most beings are actually really, really angry. It doesn't take long, doesn't it? One stop at the traffic lights, one look, and that's it. There's a fight, especially where I come from, which is Essex, always up for a fight. You know, now they call it terrorism. For us, it was called a Saturday night out. They changed the words around, you know, a big punch up in a pub, now it's called terrorism. But anyway, trying to understand love. When my girlfriends loved me, I actually couldn't receive it. I felt quite funny about it because I wasn't used to it. And so, you know, they used to say, oh, I really love you, and I think you're great, and I think you're this, and I think you're that, and I thought, oh God, you know, oh yeah, okay, thank you very much. You know, I sort of steered away from it. I didn't think much about it, but do you know, here's a funny thing, and I'm going to be really bloody honest with you, because it just seemed that the more somebody loved me, the more it made me feel inadequate about loving. And it made me feel funny. And it made me feel like I wasn't worthy. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And, do you know, I almost felt like, and here's the bad bit, I almost felt like I was stripping their love down to sort of kind of balancing it out because I didn't have any. And so therefore I was destroying their love a little bit, just so that do you know what I'm talking about? It's hard for me to put it into words, but I really realised at that particular point that something here was really wrong. You know, you can get this wonderful person come into your life and really love you, and you go into a negative state. So someone that has a lot of love to give can actually put you into a real bad negative state. I know it sounds a bit mad, but I'm just being really honest with you, and I'm trying to go back to the beginning because this was a long time ago, and I'm trying to give it to you in the best way that I can, because this was all about, the first question is, are you finding it hard to understand love? Not get love or find love, be love. Understand it. What does it mean for you? How does it make you feel if somebody was really loving to you? How does it make you feel that maybe you are the being that gives a lot of love, but your man or your woman really isn't appreciating it? And then what happens is that you think, sod you then. I can't be bothered to keep loving you. All you do is keep putting me down and keep rejecting me. So it seems like that the more that we put out love, the more we felt like we was being rejected. And the more that you feel like that you're being rejected, it starts to shut you down, and that's when we start to build a brick house around our being. And that's when we start to shut ourselves down. You can take that right back to your parents. You know, when you, as a child, you kind of love your parents, don't you? But then as you kind of grow up, you think, here, hold up a minute. I don't think you love me, you know. And I think that's that 13, 14-year-old stage, you know, where we're kind of battling the parents there a little bit. There's something in there that basically says, no, you lied to me. And no, I don't think I got brought up in the right way. So that's where our programming starts, you know, so trying to understand what love is. Maybe you did come from loving parents. Now, I do know people that had amazing loving parents, but the kids still grew up like as if they didn't have any love. So it kind of, you know, it works both ways. You can get a lot of love, but you may not be able to give love. You may not be able to receive love. You might come from a shit background where you got no love. And so therefore you've got a choice to either go out into the world and have no love and feel hatred for everybody, or you've got the chance to transform it. You can come from no love and think, whoa, you know, I'm not going to do that in my family. I'm going to be able to sort of love as much as I can. So loving something or somebody is very difficult because we kind of like an equal amounts back, don't we? So if you're a loving being, as I said, you'll start to shut yourself down. So trying to understand love, I think the greatest thing, I'll give you the answer where I'm at with it now. The greatest word that I could give it was to be natural. Because if I was looking for love or trying to understand love or trying to bring in love or trying to love myself, I mean, it kind of came with a whole bunch of conditions and a whole bunch of rules and regulations, and it didn't take long to sort of knock me down. So I used to look at that and think, well, maybe that's not love then. But when I discovered naturalness, and that's where the be me comes in, you know, you have to use certain words and you sort of ask your body, you ask yourself, is it naturalness that I'm looking for? And you wait for the body to sort of kind of respond. And you can get a feeling. You use your body like a barometer, as I said. It's like a little temperature gauge. You know, when you're angry, your blood's boiling, and when you're nice and calm and cool, you regulate your blood pressure. It's a well-known fact, isn't it? You've got high blood pressure, low blood pressure. I know there's more to it than that, but just bear with me. And so therefore, you know, your internal workings about what love is gauging who you are as a being. So the most important thing that shuts us down, or we find ourselves in a very depressive state, really and honestly, we are loving beings. We all want love. We all want to give love. We all want to look at life as if wow, what a wonderful loving place. You know, ultimately in your spiritual self, or your be me self. I'm getting away from that word spiritual, but I'll use it every now and again because you're not going to quite understand what be me love is all about. Right, so the first thing that you need to try and understand in your process of awakening is, are you trying to find understanding love? So you need to try and answer that. Find that. What is it that you want to love? What is it that you want to give as love? Find out what love really means to you and write this stuff down. I'll be knocking on your door. Essays, please. Understanding love.